Hi everyone, thanks very much for your patience whilst we're waiting to get started with today's webinar. We're looking at payroll year end in Sage Payroll 2024. So today's session is for native cloud software, otherwise known as Sage Business Cloud Payroll, and today's not for Sage 50 desktop. So if you double click on an icon on your desktop to access your payroll, then that will be Sage 50 desktop software. We're not covering that today. Whereas if you enter a web address into your web browser to access your payroll, then that will be Sage Business Cloud, which we are looking at today. So if you were expecting Sage 50 desktop, please let us know in the chat and we'll give you a link to the correct webinar registration page. My name's Mark. I'm a member of the Learning Solutions team here at Sage, and I'll be taking you through today's session. So pretty much everyone now is in attendance that I was expecting. So let's make a start. So just a quick piece of housekeeping. I have muted everyone's lines just to stop any background noise or interference that can sometimes happen in a group meeting scenario such as this. However, that doesn't mean that you can't interact or ask questions. I can see some people are already asking questions. Just simply submit your questions using the Q&A panel in your webinar window, in your GoToWebinar window. Now, you will receive a link tomorrow with a recording of today's session about this time tomorrow, and you can actually download a PDF of today's slides, which have got all the links shown available for you to use. I've actually included two types of PDF, one with the links embedded and another black and white grayscale copy if you're wanting to print that out so it's printer friendly. So today I actually have Laura and Paddy helping me, and they will do their best to answer questions through the session, and I will check in the Q&A section towards the end of today's session that everyone has been replied to. So let's have a look at today's agenda. So in today's agenda, we will cover all important dates and deadlines. We'll explain how to complete your current tax year processing and prepare for payroll year end, and I'll include an explanation of week 53. We'll show you each step of the payroll year end process to ensure you complete this confidently and on time, and we'll help you get ready to process your first pay run of the new tax year. And then we'll cover off the recent national insurance changes in the recent spring budget. So firstly, let's look at some important dates of a payroll year end. So firstly, we've got the 5th of April, which is the end of the tax year. And then the 6th of April, this is the start of the new tax year. So you can process pay runs in the new tax year, even if you've not yet completed your year-end steps. Then we've got the 19th of April. This is your deadline for the final submission of the tax year. And this is the employer payment summary, or EPS, within the year-end tab in Sage Payroll. And then lastly, we've got the 31st of May. By this date, your employees should have received their P60s. So in today's session, I've actually included some videos that highlight areas of the software that we're looking at. So let's look at the first of these, and we'll show the steps to prepare for your payroll year end. We'll now look at preparing for year end and finalising your current tax year processing. Before completing your final pay period of the tax year, you should process any outstanding current year leavers. This means any leavers with a leave date on or before the 5th of April should be processed as a leaver in time for the final pay run of the tax year. You can mark an employee as a leaver in the Employee tab. You can do this using bulk actions or in the individual employee record. Let's move on to the next item on the list. This is extra pay periods. If you run a weekly, fortnightly, or 4-weekly payroll, you may have an extra pay period, also known as a week 53. Extra pay periods will apply to you if your regular pay date falls on the 5th of April or in a leap year, the 4th or the 5th of April. If you do have an extra pay period, don't worry, simply process your payroll as usual. PAYE will automatically be calculated on a non-cumulative week 1 basis in accordance with legislation. Let's move on to the next item on the preparation checklist, advancing pay over the payroll year-end period. You can't advance holiday pay over 2 tax years. For example, you can't process week 52 and advance holiday pay for week 1. If the employee is on holiday over the payroll year-end period, you should pay each holiday week separately without using the advanced pay feature. Use the advanced pay option if the advanced pay period covers any weeks up to and including week 52. For example, if you are processing week 51 and advancing to week 52. If you have a week 53, this should be processed separately and should not be included in an advanced holiday payment. Let's move on to the next item on the checklist, processing your final pay run of the tax year. Before running your year end, you must process your final pay. Do this as usual, making sure your full payment submission is successfully sent to HMRC. Pay dates are confirmed in the Summary tab. Your next pay run should be on or after the 6th of April. Complete your employer payment summary for the last P32 reporting period of this year and make sure you send the pension information for your payroll to your provider as usual. The payroll year-end preparation checklist is now complete. So to recap there, you will have an extra pay period or week 53 if you run a weekly, 2-weekly or 4-weekly payroll and your regular pay date falls on Thursday the 4th of April or Friday the 5th of April 2024. But please note you need do nothing in Sage Payroll. Simply process the pay period as normal and PAYE will be calculated in accordance with legislation. So I'd like to point out that on this slide, the extra 2 days shown doesn't mean you'll only pay 2 days, but it just shows that you will have an extra pay period in the tax year. So just to clarify, you can easily see in your summary screen or in your pay calendar if you have a week 53. You can view your pay calendar in settings, then payday settings, then view pay calendar. But again, it's important not to change your pay calendar manually in the system, as the software will automatically set the pay date for you, just as it does every other period of the tax year, and the software automatically follows HMRC's legislation. So now let's have a look at the 4-step payroll year-end process. And I have another pre-prepared video that highlights important areas to take note of. Let's move on to the year-end process. From the menu, click Year-End. First, check for tax year to report on is showing the correct tax year. This should be the tax year you are completing. Step 1 is to review your employees' pay values. The purpose of this step is to check values and to make any necessary corrections before the payroll year-end is completed. Choose Review Employee Pay P11. A list of all employees paid in this tax year appears, including their total pay to date. To view more detailed information for individual employees, click View P11 next to their name. To view the P11 for all employees at once, click View P11 for all employees. Two P11 reports will be produced for each employee, one containing PAYE and pay information, the other national insurance and statutory deduction values to help you check your employee pay. You can run and export additional reports within the reporting menu. You can return to these reports at any time during or after payroll year end. However, if you'd like to save or print the reports, you can do so here. Once you're happy your employees have been paid correctly this tax year, you can close the P11 reports and then click Return to Year End. To confirm Step 1 is complete, select the checkbox. Step 2 of the payroll year end is to submit your employer payment summary, also known as an EPS. This is your final EPS submission of the tax year. This should be sent by the 19th of April. You can see a countdown here. To continue, click Submit EPS. If you're closing your PAYE scheme, select this checkbox and enter the company cessation date. If you're not closing your scheme, don't select the checkbox. To continue, click Next. Check your CIS deduction suffered and recovery and compensation values. These are year-to-date values and are automatically calculated based on what you have entered on your EPS submissions throughout the tax year. To continue and submit the final EPS, click Next. To submit using your saved credentials, click Submit. Once the submission is successful, you'll be notified here. Step 3 is to distribute your P60 certificates. This should be completed by the 31st of May and you can see the countdown here. You can print your P60s onto plain paper, no stationery is needed. Alternatively, go paperless with online P60s. Sage HR Essentials is included in your Sage Payroll subscription and available to you at no extra cost. Activate Sage HR Essentials so employees can securely view and download their P60s at any time on any device. To set up online P60s, go to Settings and Sage HR. Click here and follow the steps. To learn more about Sage HR integration and online documents, click to find out more. Once you have activated Sage HR, publish P60s online by clicking here and entering the date you'd like to make these available to your employees. Access Sage HR using this menu. In the Payslips section, there's a P60 tab where you can view and print all P60s if required. You can automate your processes further and publish payslips online each time you pay your employees. Back in Sage Payroll in the Year-End tab, you can print your P60s onto plain paper. You can view the P60 for each employee individually by clicking the link next to their name. Alternatively, view them all at once by clicking the View All link. You can print them onto plain paper or save them to your computer. Once you have printed or saved the P60s, close the report, then click Return to Year End. To mark this step as complete, select the checkbox. Step 4 of the payroll year end is not a mandatory step. This step is only applicable to you if you have made any corrections to the tax year processing after completing your final pay run of the year. You can submit this after the 19th of April in the new tax year. To do this, click Submit Supplementary FPS and follow the on-screen instructions. The supplementary FPS will automatically include any corrections you have made since your last pay run and full payment submission. This includes any leave dates you have entered after completing your final pay run of the tax year. So for P60s, let's recap. You can move online by activating HR Essentials for Sage Payroll, and you can export your P60s as PDFs and email them to your employees. Or if you don't want to move over to paperless, you can still print onto plain paper, but please note P60 stationery is no longer available from Sage or HMRC, and you no longer need this as the full form is now printed for you. Also, please note you will not receive a P60 for any employees that are leavers. They will have received a P45 from you and will receive a P60 from their new employer. So now let's look at how to get ready for the new tax year. I've got another short video to show you now. Start processing in the new tax year with confidence as Sage Payroll updates automatically. Submit your employment allowance claim for the new tax year by clicking here and following the on-screen steps. Please check your PAYE online services for any tax code notices before running your first pay run of the new tax year. Tax code changes must be updated manually. When you run your first pay run of the new tax year, this message will appear. You can amend tax codes here if required. Alternatively, update tax codes in the individual employee records. The emergency tax code remains at 1257L. You will also be asked to confirm your HMRC reporting frequency for the new tax year. This is how often you produce your P32 report, submit your EPS and pay HMRC, not how often you pay your employees. So to recap, to get ready for the new tax year, you must apply for employment allowance for each tax year that you're eligible. So you can usually claim if you're a business or a charity and your employer's Class 1 national insurance liabilities were less than £100,000 in the previous tax year. So I've got a link in the slides, so please use that for further information. Then confirm your HMRC reporting frequency by selecting how often you submit your EPS and pay HMRC. And please note, again, this is not how often you pay your employees. And also, please check your PAYE online services for any tax code notices before running your first pay run of the new tax year and update them as required. So now let's look at what's new for 2024-2025. So here are the legislation changes for 2024-2025. The emergency tax code remains at 1257L. There are new PAYE tax bands and rates for Scotland. We are about to look at national insurance reduction from 10 to 8% in the next section, and statutory sick pay is increasing to £116.75 per week. Parental pay is increasing to £184.03 per week, and the student loan plans 1, 2 and 4, as well as the postgraduate loans, are changing to the amounts shown on screen. There are no changes to the auto-enrolment thresholds. So to clarify, what is the difference between NMW, or National Minimum Wage, and NLW, that's National Living Wage? The National Minimum Wage is the minimum pay per hour almost all workers are entitled to. The National Living Wage is higher than the National Minimum Wage, and workers get it currently if they're over 23. It doesn't matter how small an employer is, they still have to pay the correct minimum wage. From the 1st of April this year, 2024, workers aged 21 and over will be entitled to the national living wage. And please note, only tax codes need to manually be updated in Sage Payroll. And please use the new legislation link in today's presentation for more details. So very recently, we've had the spring budget changes of 2024, and the announcement included a reduction of employee national insurance, NI, from 10 to 8% to take effect from the 6th of April 2024. There were no other changes affecting Sage Payroll. We've updated your software so that you can get ready for the new tax year, which starts on the 6th of April. So please note there is nothing you need to do yourself within your program. Now let's look at support and further learning available to you. So I wanted to take this opportunity to draw your attention to the Help Centre in Sage Payroll, should you need further support, as well as being able to access the Sage Assistant for self-serving technical inquiries. You can use keyword searches in our help articles, or you can scroll down to use the support hubs. At the top here, you can also access Sage University, or Sage U as it's otherwise known. And please note, you can always access the Help Center when you are in your actual software, Sage Payroll, by clicking Help at the top right-hand corner of your screen. There's also a dedicated support hub for Sage Payroll year-end, and you can access that at any time by going to sage.co.uk/PYE. So Sage University is your free online training center where you can complete e-learning courses and become certified at your own pace in your own time whilst you earn badges and CPD points. Now, lastly, before the Q&A section, I wanted to offer all today's attendees an exciting opportunity to register your interest and join the waiting list for Sage Copilot. So for small business owners, accountants, and HR leaders, Sage Copilot will act as a trusted member of your team and handle administrative tasks whilst recommending ways to make savings and drive business improvements. I said earlier, you will receive a follow-up email tomorrow that will have a recording of today's session. You'll also receive a link to find out more and register your interest in Sage Copilot. So please take advantage of that, as it is definitely one of the most important announcements that we've made in our recent history. So now let's look at any questions that have come up today. So please use the question panel in the go-to sidebar if you haven't already done so. And also, again, please note I've included 2 sets of slides today for you to download. One will have all the links embedded for you to use, such as the Payroll Year-End Hub, and the other is optimized for printing should you wish to do so. So I'm just going to see how my colleagues have been getting on answering questions. If a question hasn't been answered and we need to go offline to get you the best information, we may ask to email you directly. So I'm going to go on mute for a couple of minutes and I'll come back with any questions that I feel are valuable. Right, so we've had a few questions come through. Can we process year-end after March monthly wages are done, or do we need to wait? So as long as you've completed your current tax year processing, you can complete your year end before the 5th of April. That you just need to access the year end steps in your summary page. Yep, any employees that are still employed by you will receive a P60. If they are marked as a leaver before the 5th of April, they won't receive a P60 as they will have received a P45 instead. So if you wish to leave, thank you for joining today. I am going to keep the session open for a couple more minutes to answer a few more questions. I'll just pop myself back onto mute. Thank you. Just a reminder there that you will receive a follow-up email tomorrow, which includes links to register for future webinars and to watch recordings. Like I said, I'm going to keep the chat panel open for a few more minutes, but thank you for watching today, and hopefully I will speak to you again when I host another in our series of payroll webinars.